You've started running slow. You're doing the MAF training. You calculated your heart rate. You've gone out for your first slow run. And within 5 minutes, your heart rate is already way above your MAF ceiling. Here's the thing, you slow down, it comes back down. You hit a small hill, it spikes again. You're walking more than you're running. And now you're frustrated, and that voice in your head is saying, this isn't working. I've been there. Every person who has ever tried running slow, Maffetone training, or Zone 2 has been there. But here's what I want you to understand. A heart rate spike is not a failure. It's information. And once you know how to read that information and what to do about it, everything, and I mean everything, changes. I've been doing this slow running thing for over 6 years. My heart rate data is from thousands of runs. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through every major cause of heart rate spikes in slow running that you're going to encounter. Hills, heat, stress, fatigue, and I'm going to give you the exact strategies I've used to be able to manage them. So that way you can run faster for longer and not get so frustrated. So let's start. Why do heart rate spikes actually matter when you're running slow? Look, before I get into the fixes, I want to explain why keeping your heart rate under your MAF ceiling actually matters. Because if you don't understand it and you don't understand the why behind it, the discipline to do it is a lot harder to find. Your MAF heart rate is your aerobic ceiling. Every beat above it pushes you further into the anaerobic territory. That's zone 3, where you're burning carbohydrates instead of fat, accumulating fatigue instead of building an aerobic base, and training your body to work harder instead of more efficient. Look, there is a place and time for those, be able to run at race pace and in those faster intensities, but you got to get there first. Look, the whole point of running slow, MAF training, is to spend as much time possible below that ceiling. Not some of the time, but as much as possible. Every time your heart rate spikes above your MAF number and stays there, even for a few minutes, you're pulling yourself out of the anaerobic zone that you're trying to build in the first place. Over the weeks of training, they can significantly slow your aerobic development down. So when I say manage your heart rate, I mean protect that ceiling like it is the most important number in your training, because it is. Now let's talk about why it spikes and what to do about each one. Look, man, it's the hills. It's a big one. And this is the thing that breaks people's MAF runs in the first few weeks. You're running along. Your heart rate is sitting nicely under your ceiling. You're feeling controlled, and then the road kind of goes upwards. You're running uphill. And within 30 seconds, your heart rate spikes 10 to 15, maybe even 20 beats above your MAF number. You're running slow, but your heart rate is through the roof. Now you have two choices. Now, most people try to slow their pace and power through the hill. They shuffle up it like slowly, and they're telling themselves, it'll come back down at the top. It'll come back down at the top. I swear it's going to come back down at the top. Yeah, that was me. But here's the problem with that. By the time you get to the top of the hill, your heart rate may be significantly elevated. I mean, not by a little bit. I mean, through the roof. And then it takes time to come back down, So during which time you're still above your ceiling. So like you're way above it. And on a hilly route, that can mean spending a significant portion of your run above your MAF number without realizing it. Because here's the thing. The solution is simple. And this one took me the longest to accept, to be quite honest, because my ego didn't like it, right? Walk the uphills, run the flats, and run the downhills. That's it. That's the strategy when it comes to MAF training, running slow. When you feel your heart rate approaching your MAF ceiling on an uphill, walk immediately. Don't wait until it goes above. Walk the moment you feel it coming on. It's going to take a little bit of practice, but you'll get there. Here's what most people don't realize about walking uphill during an MAF run. Here's the thing. You're not losing fitness. You're protecting your session of your run. A run where your heart rate stays under your MAF ceiling for the entire duration is worth more than a run where you push through every hill and spend half of it above that, half of the time above it. Look, I've run the same hilly routes hundreds and hundreds of times. The runs where I walked every uphill felt slower in the moment, but produced the better MAF test results the following month. Now look, downhills are something else, right? They are on the other side of this conversation. Most runners either brake on the downhill, which loads the quads, and it wastes literally a lot of free energy, right? A lot of free speed. Or they just let it go and hammer down, which spikes effort in a really difficult way. Like you try to balance running slow. The right approach for me on a downhill during a MAF run is to let the gravity do the work. Relax your stride, lean forward, like they say, slightly forward from the ankles, and just let the hill carry you down, right? Your heart rate will often drop below your MAF ceiling in a good downhill, which, to be honest, is free recovery time built into the run, right? So think of hills this way, right? An uphill is your recovery walk. Downhill is your free aerobic run, right? It's flat is where you find your rhythm, okay? Accept it, and hilly routes become really an asset in your running rather than a problem. Now here's a challenge that most people don't want to acknowledge, but heat is the sneaky one, and that is the one that catches most people completely off guard in the summer months, or if you live in hot climates year round. Here's what happens. You go out at the same time you always do. Same route, same effort, same everything. But it's 10 degrees warmer, and it's 10 degrees warmer than your last run. And within the first kilometer or mile, your heart rate is already higher than usual, and it's climbing fast. This isn't a fitness problem. This is a thermodynamic problem. And when your body temperature rises from heat or from humidity, from running in direct sun, your heart has to pump harder to pump blood to your skin, for cooling, that is. And that additional work shows up immediately in your heart rate, even the exact same pace and effort on a cooler day. This is called cardiac drift, and it's completely, and I'm going to repeat, it is completely normal. But if you don't know about it, you'll think your fitness has gone backwards literally overnight. So what do you do about it? First, adjust your expectations before you go out. Look, on a hot day, your MAF pace will be slower. You're just gonna have to accept that before you even start. Don't compare to a summer run, to a winter run, and then draw conclusions about your fitness. I've been there, I've done it, and it's not a good place to be. You beat yourself up, and that's not a fun thing to happen, okay? Second, run earlier. I've always found that early morning runs before the sun is fully up give me the most consistent heart rate, really. The air literally is cooler, the body temperature hasn't risen really yet, and the readings are pretty good. Third, hydrate before your run, not just on race day, every single run. Dehydration raises your heart rate significantly. A body that's slightly dehydrated is working way harder than it needs to, and that shows up above your MAF ceiling faster than you would expect. Fourth, slow down, okay? Slow down sooner than you think you need to on hot days. Don't wait until heart rate has spiked. Start slower, stay slower, protect the ceiling from the very first step out the door. Look, my hottest training runs have been 2 minutes per kilometer slower than my cooler weather runs, okay? Hey, look, even at the same heart rate. And that's just the way it goes. And it used to really frustrate me, literally enormously. Now I see the data, the heat is telling me that my body is dealing with, and I just have to listen. Look, there's going to be a challenge with fatigue and accumulative stress. That is going to happen. And this is the one that most people never connect. And it's one literally that has changed how I think about training and running more than literally anything else in my life when it comes to this. Look, your heart rate doesn't just respond to physical effort, okay? It responds to stress. All stresses, literally, like life stress, sleep stress, right? Emotional load, poor nutrition, all of it shows up, in your heart rate. Look, I've gone out for a run during periods of high stress at work or difficult times in my personal life, and my heart rate has been 8 to 10 beats higher than usual, okay? Even before I finish my first kilometer or mile, depending on where you're at. Look, and this is a pace I would normally hold comfortably under my MAF or my MAF ceiling, right? So for a long time, I thought something was wrong, right? I thought something was wrong with my heart, my fitness. But look, nothing was wrong with my fitness. My body literally was already working hard even before I got out the front door, right? So carrying the load of everything else going on in life, and my heart rate was reflecting that, honestly, right? So here's what I've learned to do. Check in before you run, okay? So check in with yourself. Not just a physical check-in, hey, how are your legs feeling, but a real check-in. Like, how did you sleep last night? Look at your watch. It say that you were awake a lot more, you're stressed out, have you eaten properly? How much in the last 24 hours have you been asking your body to do, right? And if your answers aren't good, right, just adjust before you go out that front door, knowing that your heart rate is going to be higher, and accept it, okay? Accept the pace. Cut the run short if you need to, right? A 40-minute run staying under your MAF ceiling is better than a 90-minute run that you spend half of it above that time in a gray zone that you're not normally training at. That could be a recipe for disaster, right? And I've learned that the MAF test is a remarkable stress detector. When my monthly test comes back slower than the previous month, the very first question now isn't, what went wrong with my training? It's what's going on in my life during that month. 9 out of 10 times, the answer literally explains everything that I need to be able to make a decision with regard to my training. Look, sleep is training, recovery is training, managing the stress load outside of running is training. Look, the heart rate monitor doesn't lie. And if it's telling you something that is elevated today, you got to listen to it. You got to trust what your body is telling you, and then you have to adapt based on that. Hey, my name's David. I'm the Plant Powered Runner, and I've been using the Maffetone method, aka slow running, for many years now. And I've been able to run, faster for longer, be able to run a full ultra marathon, 80 kilometer, 50 miler. And I've gotten 3 minutes faster per kilometer within a year of this wicked ass training. And I share it on my channel. I talk about slow running and the benefits of it and the challenges of it and everything in between all of it, because I want people to be able to get out there and improve their lives through movement, through running or hiking or walking, whatever it is. It's what I try to do on this channel. And I think I'm starting to kind of find my rhythm, find my groove, find my tribe, as they say. And if you're watching this, you may be part of that. And I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. So if you like these videos, maybe think about liking, subscribing, commenting, sharing it with a family member, a friend, social media, whatever. It really does mean a lot. So let's get back to the video. Now, here's another challenge that people find, okay, with this. And it's the psychological piece, and it really does get looked, okay? One more cause of heart rate spike that nobody really talks enough about, and it's starting out too fast. Look, it sounds obvious, but it's one of the most common mistakes I see, and one I've made constantly in my early MAF training, aka running slow. You set off at what literally feels like a generally, easy pace. But the excitement of going for a run, the fresh legs, you feel great at the start, and the natural tendency is to move at that comfortable pace, a social pace. All of it pushes you slightly faster than your aerobic system can handle. In those first few minutes, okay, hold on a second. It's beautifully sunny right now. This is flipping amazing. This sunshine, sun on my skin. This is just amazing. Heart rate spikes early, you slow down. It takes time to come back down, and you've already borrowed that energy from the beginning of the run, and that affects the rest of the run. Okay, so here's the fix. You're gonna have to start your MAF runs slower than feels necessary, uncomfortably slow for the first 5 minutes. Let your body literally warm up into the effort, okay, rather than chasing it down from the start. Now, I treat the first 5 to 10 minutes of every MAF run as a warm-up. Like, I can walk, right? Walking pace like I am right now, regardless of how good my legs feel. The heart rate settles, the body finds its rhythm, and the rest of the run is better for it. You're not spiking high and then all of a sudden it stays there for what seems like forever. Think of it this way. The first kilometer of your MAF run should feel almost too flippin' easy. If it feels just right, you're probably starting off too fast. I mean, it really needs to be feeling very easy, because the longer that it feels like that, the more likely you're not going to deal with all of the heart rate spikes that come with starting off running. That's what I've found in my training, right? So I want to bring this together, okay? Heart rate spikes on hills. So walk the uphills, run the downhills, and literally let gravity be your friend. Heart rate spikes in heat, okay? So you're gonna have to start slower, run earlier, hydrate before you go out for your run, take water with you, make sure that you're hydrating correctly, right? You gotta set your expectations for the conditions that you're gonna be running in. Heart rate spikes from fatigue and stress, you're gonna have to check in with yourself honestly before every run. You have to reduce the stress in your session. If your body is already carrying a big load, remember that sleep and recovery are part of that training, and don't try to diminish them. It doesn't help. Heart rate spikes at the start. Begin slower than often feels necessary. Treat the first 5-10 minutes as a warm-up and let the body find its rhythm. None of these are complicated, but all of them require the thing that MAF training demands more than anything else, and that's honesty. Most people are not honest about where they are in their training. Honesty about where you are and what your body is telling you and what the number is on your wrist actually means something. The heart rate monitor is the most honest coach you will ever have, as long as it's working correctly. So you're gonna lean into it, listen to it, and it will tell you everything that you need to know about what's going on in your training. So here's the question. So what's your biggest challenge? Keeping your heart rate under your MAF ceiling? Hill training? Heat? Something else entirely? Right? I want to know in the comments below. Look, I read every single one, and I want you to know what you're dealing with specifically, right? Because your question literally might be the next video that I do on this channel. And if you haven't calculated your MAF heart rate yet, it's 180 minus your age. That's your starting point, right? My beginner guide is linked below. So if you want the full kind of walkthrough, you can click on that. It'll help you a lot. And if you're managing hills on your MAF run right now, look, try walking every uphill this week, just 1 week, and see what your average heart rate looks like at the end of that run compared to the last run, and do that for a full week. And I think you may be surprised. And like I always say, get out and run. And if you can't run, walk. If you can't run, I don't know, maybe take a scooter. See you on the next one.